Live from the heart of Baylor Bear Country, the most comprehensive pregame coverage. This is Game Day Live, powered by Sikkim 365 and KWTX News 10.
And good morning. We are inside of our studio on the corner of both MLK and Elm, about a mile or two away on the west side of I-35 from McLean Stadium tonight. It is the Air Force Academy, the Falcons, who beat Baylor a couple of years ago in the bowl game in frigid conditions, and also Baylor coming off the loss on the road in Salt Lake City to Utah. Air Force and Baylor tonight at McLean Stadium. I'm David Smoak with Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak. Garrett Ross runs the mothership, and thanks to everybody back at the TV station at KWTX for helping us out too. All right, Baylor and Air Force, we know it's a rematch, but before we really get to that, two games last night in the Big 12, I think. We'll get to the schedule, but how about Kansas State thumped Arizona, even though they gave up the first points. Avery Johnson was huge, and then Kansas is now, they've lost twice as they were beaten at home by unbeaten 3-0 Barry Odom and UNLV.
Yeah, starting out with Kansas State, improvements from Avery Johnson in the passing game. Arizona's got problems on defense for sure. They have problems on offense too. The running back is held out for one of the more bizarre but probably frequently happening eligibility questions as you transfer 3 times, and especially from a school like Alabama State who probably doesn't keep records like everybody else does, where a jersey number change and he played in 8 games or 4 games or something like that. And then they're kind of Fafita and McMillan right now on offense, and McMillan is absolutely unbelievable. He might be wide receiver 1 in the country this year. But Kansas State, just an absolutely ridiculously good effort on offense all the way around. Avery Johnson made strides, and Jalen Daniels threw 2 picks. Craig nailed it last week, saying he looks like a quarterback who hasn't played very much in the last year and a half, and that's what he looks like. He had his moments where he looked like Jalen Daniels for a minute, but so far he just looks rusty, and those 2 picks really could have been huge differences in the game that you only lose by 3.
Yeah, I mean, K-State handled their business, and I expected them to do that. Didn't know how close that game would be with Arizona, but turned out to be a really nice win for the Kansas State Wildcats in that battle of Wildcats. And Avery Johnson, 100-plus yards on the ground. It was good to see. Passing numbers that were pretty solid, nothing gaudy, but good nonetheless. And yeah, they were able to really open that up in the second half. So that's a tough loss for Arizona. That's probably now teetering on the top 25 or teetering in the top 25. They'll drop, I would imagine, and that'll have them either falling out or just hanging in there barely. So
who, Kansas?
Arizona.
Oh, Arizona. I'm sorry. Okay.
So yeah, Kansas State, nice win for them, top 20, and we'll see if Arizona's even in the top 25. But for the other side of the coin, Kansas is a bit of a mess right now, and I know a lot of people are calling for Jeff Grimes' head. I don't know if that's too strong of a word or a term this early, but certainly not happy with what they've seen, and not happy with the change in offense since he took over. And that's not just on him, of course. That's also on the personnel, and Jalen Daniels does not look like the Jalen Daniels player of the year type of talent that he was the last time we really saw him. So the injuries, the change in play calling, just a lack of confidence. I think a lot of things are working against him right now. And it's going to be interesting to see if he can get it all together and go on a run and help them go on a run and win some games. But to be 1-2 is not exactly what you signed up for when you were thinking about this upcoming year for Kansas.
We will hear from a couple of Baylor players later in the show. Air Force football coach Troy Calhoun, also former Baylor coach Grant Teaff, because they're going to celebrate 50 years of that 1974 Southwest Conference Championship. He will be a part of today's show. And Richard Clark, retired lieutenant general, part of the College Football Playoff executive director. He joined us earlier this week. He's in town, an Air Force Academy graduate, and he'll join us also on today's show. But we go to McLean Stadium, and Darby Brown, of course, is there everywhere. Last week, Salt Lake City, back in Waco. Still a long way to go before kickoff tonight. But Darby, Baylor, in the end last week, it was like a game did not get away from them, although for a while it did. But your thoughts, do you think the bowl game 2 years ago has any whatsoever play in today and the way Baylor focuses in on Air Force in this week?
I think for sure. I mean, the guys kind of talked about it throughout the week that they have a revenge attitude when they saw a team a couple years ago kind of got embarrassed in a bowl game. And so now they have an opportunity to come back and get a win over a team that beat them in a situation that they don't have good memories of. But and as far as, schemes and things like that, they did have some preparation with going against Air Force's offense, which is obviously still the same. Beyond that, though, obviously there's a lot of changes, especially on the Baylor side between coordinators and everything else, that it's certainly not the same exact teams that played a couple of years ago, but I think it has an impact for sure.
Darby, last week was uneven. I think that's putting it the nicest way I can, but they did do some good things on defense. Particularly, they really only gave up one touchdown drive on that side of the ball. Mm-hmm. Have you seen the changes that Dave Aranda has already made kind of paying off when you can hold a team like Utah to one touchdown?
Absolutely. The defense is definitely improved so far. They have taken some steps forward. Now, we have to mention that Cam Rising going out in that game near the end of the first half, it really impacted Utah's ability to get down the field. I mean, their backup quarterback was years away, and I know he's about 7 years younger than Cam Rising or something crazy like that. So it was definitely a very different story. But without a doubt, I think the defense has taken a huge step forward. Now they just have to get the offense to at least, somewhat match the level, because it was super lopsided in last week's loss.
Darby, what have you thought about what we've seen from DeQuan Finn so far? It's just 2 games, and as you mentioned, the offense has got to pick up their slack. But what has stood out to you from what you've seen?
Yeah, some good and a lot of bad. I mean, Utah, that game, I thought he was specifically pretty rattled, which I asked Coach Aranda about that after the game, and he kind of took some of the blame, saying that he felt he put too much pressure on DeQuan maybe to go out there and really make a statement win and surprise some people and things like that. Kind of got bigger than just the game. But I think he definitely looked like that environment was maybe too much for him. Things were kind of moving too quick. And so he made a lot of mistakes, and he even made a couple of mistakes in that Tarleton game as well. So, I think there's some mistakes that he's just going to make. That's kind of his style of play. He's a little bit of a gunslinger type guy, but I think there's definitely some mistakes that they got to try to clean up as far as he's concerned. And, it is 2 weeks with a new team. Maybe we'll see a different side of him today. He'll start to settle in, back here at home. I think he could build some confidence back up. But I think that some people were curious if Sawyer was going to get in against that Utah team last week. And I don't think that would have been out of the question. I don't disagree with Dave Aranda's, decision to try to keep with DeQuan because he's their guy, but we got to see more from him, I think.
I thought that one of the things from Dave Aranda in the post game that you were at was that he talked about the too much pressure on this team. Or they my goodness, they're old and a lot of these guys are experienced enough. They should understand that. I don't know how he can. I kind of thought that was almost deflecting a little bit too much. That was too big of a moment for the players, including DeQuan Finn.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting statement. He kind of even said that he was maybe too emotional, which I did post something about that. And a lot of Baylor fans were like, what does that even mean? A too emotional Dave Aranda. But, I don't know. I think there could be something to it that they felt like we can hang with these guys. Let's go prove to everybody, upset this ranked opponent. And they kind of made it too big. But I don't disagree with you. I think this team should have been prepared for those kind of stakes. I mean, they know the pressure has been there this whole summer. I mean, the pressure is there on this team, period. No matter who they're going against, there is pressure. And so they should be able to respond to some of that at this point.
Darby Brown, KWTX with us on Game Day Live.
Darby, just around the rest of the Big 12, I mean, if you looked at this schedule 6 months ago, you would say, oh, man, I don't know where they find 6 wins. But through the first 2 weeks, look, if Baylor can just handle what's in front of them, these are manageable games where they can win. I mean, this is not a conference that has a lot of world beaters. It's pretty even.
Yeah, it does feel like it's pretty wide open right now. I think when you look at their next few games on the schedule, these are games that I would go as far as to say Baylor should win. They should beat Air Force today. They go on to Colorado, who's been struggling, and then they host BYU. If they can string 3 wins together here, that's where they should be. I think, at this point, to be 1-1 is probably what everybody expected. And so everything is still kind of in front of them. And, the difference is the team last year, the games they should have won, they didn't. So we'll have to see kind of how that turns out over the next few weeks.
All right. So you brought up Air Force. And we were, even though freezing to death to get inside the stadium, we spent that game in the press box. And then, of course, the walk from the post game to the car was like climbing, like whatever, Mount Everest. You were out there in the conditions all night. And I saw the picture you put up about 2 or 3 days ago on your Twitter feed. Was that the coldest, or were those the coldest conditions you've ever experienced covering anything in sports?
Oh, by far. I mean, you're talking to someone that was raised in Arizona, went to college in California, and then I've lived in Texas. So very, I was born in Michigan, but my parents moved when I was 2. So there is very little cold weather experience kind of in general, aside from ski trips and things like that. But it's for sure covering a game, that was the coldest I'd ever been in my life. And honestly, parts of the game kind of feel like a blur because I myself just felt like I was trying to kind of survive out there. We'd go in the tunnel and then we'd go out to film and kind of going back and forth. And so, man, yeah, it was so cold. I know I shared that on social media and some Baylor fans had similar experiences and stories. It just all around was such a crazy, crazy cold game to be played in Fort Worth, Texas. It was nuts.
Yeah, it was nuts. And today it's 81 degrees now. It'll be probably into the upper 80s or mid 90s by the time we start. So about 100-degree temperature difference based on wind chill. So you get to enjoy that a little bit.
Yeah, it's too hot today. Honestly, I think it might be their hottest game so far. I was listening to our meteorologist in our morning show, and yeah, I mean, it's going to be pretty hot out here. I almost wish it was an earlier game because around kickoff, although it's at 6:30, it's going to feel like 100 degrees out there, I'm pretty sure, out on the turf. So it is going to be a hot one, just a world of a difference from the last time. But, these are other conditions that they're probably more equipped for, more used to. It just is going to be hot.
Thank you, Darby. Appreciate it as always to help start us off on Game Day Live on KWTX and also on 365 Sports. We'll also have today the keys to the game from Garrett Ross. He'll join us. But a couple of players that we'll discuss this week. And it'll be interesting to hear from Omar Ibedian and also Devin Lemire on their experience so far through 2 weeks. The win at home that they had against Tarleton State, and then, of course, the loss to Utah when they were jumped on early. The last thing, and we talked about this last Saturday, the last thing Baylor needed last week was to start like slowly or not start well. And that's exactly what happened. The strip sack, the touchdown drive, blocked field goal, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and there's your game for Utah right there. Was that was it? After Cam Rising went out, they had nothing else other than grinding clock, which they did, but that was it.
This is Game Day Live.
Game Day Live, sponsored locally by Central Texas Plumbing Solutions and Bird Colgin Ford.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. Get out of the heat and come check out our Labor Day sales event in the largest showroom in Texas at Bird Colgin Ford. Right now, get 3.9% on the F-150. Save big with 2.9 on the Ford Explorer. Don't miss 1.9 on the Ford Escape. Come celebrate the final days of summer during the Labor Day sales event at Bird Colgin Ford. Experience better at BK Ford.
I started my career caring for patients here in Central Texas as a critical care nurse and now as a nurse practitioner. I've seen people suffering from chronic pain and I have seen how it can change their lives.
Allison takes the time to listen to her patients. She spends time with her patients. And I've seen a glimmer of sense of humor with her that I value. For anyone experiencing pain, I would encourage them to visit Pain Specialist of America.
KWTX Dynamic Grid of Skycams in Central Texas shows you the weather right where you are. Live images around Central Texas are available 24 hours a day on air and online. And with the most experienced weather team in Central Texas, KWTX Skycam Network lets us give you real-time views of extreme weather in and around your community. Sponsored by Ray Broker Air Conditioning, serving all of Central Texas. Ray Broker is home of the free first service call.
Live from the heart of Baylor Bear Country, the most comprehensive pregame coverage. This is Game Day Live, powered by Sikkim 365 and KWTX News 10.
Stadium. This is Game Day Live, KWTX, and also 365 Sports. So a couple of players always available each week, usually early in the week. And thanks to Emery Winter for peeling off some of the audio, and also for Jack McKenzie to be at every media session and covering Baylor athletics. Omar Ibedion and also Devin Lemire earlier this week as they are preparing and discussing the game with Air Force.
Utah's probably one of the better defenses y'all faced all season. What did you guys kind of learn about yourselves over the weekend?
We learned that we still have a lot of work to do, We had an unsuccessful game, and, I think our team is very hungry, and we're determined not to let that happen again. So.
When you go into a game like this against the Air Force, I'm sure there's people on this team that remember losing to Air Force.
Right.
Air Forces Bowl. Does that add a little bit of motivation?
Right, of course it does. Whenever you lose to a team, the next time you play them, you want to beat them, So it's definitely that, and I used to be an academy kid, so I know they're going to come and play super hard and get everything they got. So we're got to be focused this week and locked in on what it takes to beat them.
How do you think that kind of plays into the trenches? They're going to come out physical.
Right.
Is that kind of what you guys have been talking about this week?
Right. That's exactly what we've been talking about. We know they're a physical group, especially with their interior D linemen. So we know we just got to match that physicality and get the job done.
Coach Aranda mentioned that Bryson Washington's coming back this weekend, and he was a standout throughout fall. So what is he going to bring to this offense?
Right. B-Watch, he's a physical runner, and he also brings a leadership aspect to it. So having him back this week is definitely going to be good.
What is the competition within the offensive line group throughout the first 2 weeks? How has that continued, and how has that helped you kind of get better?
Every week we got to go and compete for our job. That's the way Coach Miller wants it to be. And, if you see during the game, we have people rotating in and out. So that competition piece is definitely still there, and it's definitely evident in this O-line room. So everybody got to stay hungry, and everybody has to do their job.
So going against a team like Air Force with their style of offense, how do you prepare for that, knowing you might not see a lot of passes?
I've experienced it before 2022. So, actually we practiced for it for an entire month. So you just go into it knowing it's going to be a physical game, knowing that you need to read your keys. They're going to do a lot of moving. So if you don't have your eyes in the right place, the ball can get out fast. So just knowing this is going to be a physical game.
You were on that team in 2022. How big is it to get y'all's kind of revenge this weekend against them?
Big. It's just to prove a point that we're a physical team. Because, that's the reputation that Air Force and all the teams who run the triple option have, So there's a lot of doubts the past couple of years just about our physicality. So this is a time to prove that we can match up with them. Not even match up, but just exceed anything that they bring.
Through 2 games so far, have you been kind of happy about y'all's physicality on the defense so far?
Yeah, I think we've been flying around, being real physical. I think there's some things that we can clean up, just passing-wise, some little busts, and obviously fitting up the run just a little bit better. But we've been really good, so we just got to keep it up and don't let anything seep in. So just keep on playing ball. Don't worry about any outside distractions.
Kind of thinking about the defense this past week, really kind of held it down in that second half. How do you feel like you guys played, and how do you carry that over, I guess, in the Air Force?
I feel like we played really good. I don't think we did enough to win. Utah's defense played really good as well. They had a turnover. They had a forced fumble. They blocked a kick. So I think we played good, but we need to get the ball. So to help the offense and put them in better field positions and things like that.
This past weekend, playing against Utah, hostile road environment, top 15 team, what did y'all learn about yourselves out of that game?
We're resilient. We didn't quit. In the past, I've been a part of teams where you could definitely feel the shift. It would be like more so, oh, here we go again. We're going to fold. But this game, it showed that we have a lot of fight in this team, and I'm really proud of that.
Right, that's Omar Ibedion and also Devin Lemire, defensive back. By the way, Ibedion, he referred to this. He spent a year at the United States Military Academy Prep School before he joined Montana State, and then, of course, now transferred to Baylor. What Lemire said, and that can creep into the whatever you want to call the chemistry of the culture. You hear that word a lot. Oh, my God, here we go again. And it's easy to say, oh, my God, here we go again. It's also more difficult to say, no, we're not. And at least in the second half, there's no, I don't know what you're going to say, silver lining to it, but that could have been 37-8, and that could have been done.
Oh yeah, it certainly could have. So yeah, it's good that recognition of that is the first step to being able to ward it off. But they did have, between last year and the year before, just a funk.
I think that it's a really tired subject at this point. I mean, the psyche of this team is such a big topic every week that it's just kind of driving me insane, honestly. Like, go play football. Like, what? I don't understand. You're not under any pressure. I understand Dave Aranda's under pressure because he's got to save his job. But like, you're on the road against Utah in a game you're underdogs by 17 points. What are you uptight about? Like, go play football. And so I get it, but I really feel like that's something they got to get out of their own way in regards to the mental stuff.
Well, it maybe starts what they did in the second half. It starts tonight against Air Force. They're 1-1, beat Merrimack, and then lost, of course, this past week to San Jose State. Game Day Live continues.
Get ready, Baylor fans. The ultimate game weekend experience awaits you at the Baylor Club. Kick off your weekend with our Friday Night Live pep rally. With live entertainment and special appearances from the Baylor Spirit Squad, it's the perfect way to start your game weekend with a roar. On Saturdays, don't miss our Knox Hall tailgate. Enjoy delicious food, ice-cold drinks, and great company as you gear up for the big game. And after the weekend's excitement, wrap it all up with our famous Bear brunches on Sundays. Don't wait. Make your game weekends legendary with the Baylor Club membership today.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Make Camp Finfo the destination for your next visit to Waco. Whether you're catching a football game, exploring the silos, or just looking to get away, Camp Finfo Waco is conveniently located 6 miles from downtown and Baylor University. Voted a #1 best vacation rental in Waco for the last 2 years, this camping resort features cabins and RV sites and is brimming with premium amenities like on-site dining, sports courts, a swimming pool, and more. Start making unforgettable memories and book your stay at Camp Finfo Waco.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533. Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Live from the heart of Baylor Bear Country, the most comprehensive pregame coverage. This is Game Day Live, powered by Sikkim 365 and KWTX News 10.
Welcome back into Game Day Live. I'm Garrett Ross with today's Keys to the Game presented by Richard Carr Motors. Last week, Baylor was able to go up to Salt Lake City, and while they didn't get the win over Utah, which was ranked number 11th at the time in the nation, I think Baylor did come away with a lot of positive attributes that they could contribute and carry over into the season as they make a run and a push towards becoming bowl eligible, which is something this program really vastly and desperately needs this season. I think really a lot of this hinges on the defensive play. If you look at what Baylor's defense has been able to do this season, they've looked really impressive. They look better than they have in quite some time. They're flying around. You're seeing guys like Matt Jones finally come into their own. The linebacking core has been magnificent. I've been really impressed with Jackie Marshall coming off the edge. There's still some questions in the secondary, but they really haven't been tested yet this season. And I don't think they're really going to be tested this week at all against Air Force. So the first key to this week is going to be playing sound defense. Now, when you look at a program like Air Force, they run that triple option attack, and you don't really prepare for this at all if you're a team because you don't see it that often. But Baylor has known this was coming, so they did a good job of addressing and trying to get ready for this matchup through the offseason. I think when you look at how the defense has played, especially at the front seven, their communication has been up to par. I think that they're very sound and disciplined in their structure and their scheme, and they're going to be tested by this rushing attack from Air Force, who's averaging just over 154 yards per game, but I think they're ready for it. I think that Dave Aranda is going to draw up a good plan here. I think you're going to see Baylor play with gap integrity. They're going to be sound. And I don't really see Air Force getting any big plays broken here unless it was just like a bad assignment missed by Baylor, which you can't have in these type of games. So I think for me, the first key to this game is going to be taking care of that on defense. I think Baylor's going to be able to do that very soundly, but you got to be disciplined anytime you're playing a program with this triple option attack like Air Force. Now, the second key to this game is going to be create some explosive plays, man. Like, I've been really disappointed with Baylor's offense over the first two games of the season because you have a lot of key playmakers that you can get the ball to out in space, whether it's Ashton Hawkins, who came over from Texas State, or Monterey Baldwin, who just hasn't been able to get things going throughout his career here, probably because of the offense and the lack of just finding positions in space and taking advantage of his skill set. So Baylor needs to be able to do that in this game because Air Force's defense is super young. They're inexperienced, and they really aren't going to be able to match you at your athleticism if you're Baylor. So you need to take some shots down the field, which hasn't been the case. I think also you need to draw up some bubble screens or something to get your athletic guys in open space and short and let them take advantage of that speed, because that just hasn't been something that we've been able to see consistently this season. A lot of the times when Daquan Finn is running for his life, everybody is down the field like 30 to 40 yards and he has nobody to throw the ball to. And when you have tight ends, like Michael Trigg is a freaking specimen. And when you look at Matthew Klopfenstein and what he's able to do, there's no reason this offense shouldn't be able to get some explosive plays. And it's just been kind of really a detriment to them so far this season. So that's something I think you need to take advantage of heading into this matchup with Air Force. And our final key to this game is going to be establish a rushing attack. Like, we've talked about this for multiple years now. Baylor has a good stable of running backs there, and the fact that you can't get Dawson Pendergrass and Richard Reese to be like your thunder lightning combo, it's baffling to me because they're set up perfectly for that. I know a lot of this is on the offensive line, and they're just not able to live up to par when it comes to pushing people around. But at the same time, we've seen Richard Reese struggle in the past with not finding the right reads, making the wrong cuts, and just getting bottled up in the backfield. Last week, Dawson Pendergrass was able to break off a 46-yard run, but other than that, you had 7 players for Baylor touch the ball, and they barely got over 100 yards rushing. Like, that's unacceptable. So I think you need to find a way to get them two going. Also, you get Dom Richardson to throw in the mix. Hopefully, you can get Bryson Washington back as well, but Baylor's got to be able to run the football. Daquan Finn's got legs. He can run a little bit, but he's been bottled up for the most part as well. But they have got to find some ground attack. It's ridiculous that they haven't been able to do it up to this point in time. But if you're going to do it, I think now is the right time. Look, I think Baylor can win this game. I think they have a good opportunity here to build some momentum and honestly pull off a 3-game winning streak if they can do things correctly. I got the Bears winning this game about 27-9. I think it's going to be kind of ugly, but this is one that Baylor definitely needs to take care of. You're at home. It's a blackout, salute to service. You're facing a service academy. You're honoring the 1974 Southwest Conference champions, the Miracle on the Brazos team. There's a lot of things going into this. Baylor's football team, though, they've kind of struggled these moments. They haven't lived up to the expectations or the hype of the atmosphere. You can't do that in this game, especially with this little caveat. Air Force, the Pac-12 is back. The Pac-12 has revived itself. They've got 6 members right now. Air Force is one of the programs they're looking at to reach that 18 threshold where you become eligible for the college football playoff. And with a game on FS1, You have an opportunity right here in prime time if you're the Falcons to play spoiler for Baylor, and if you're the Bears, you cannot let that happen. You cannot let that happen. You got to go out. You got to take care of business. I think they will. And I think this can kind of send them on the right trajectory of where they need to be of getting bowl eligible this season. And look, you just got to go out there, calm your nerves, take care of business. I have confidence that the Bears will do that today. That's going to do it for today's Keys to the Game. We'll be back with more Game Day Live right after this.
Texas Plumbing Solution is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. So when you need some help before the big game, call Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
What sets Hillcrest Dental Care apart is our vision of how we want to care for our patients to improve their health and their quality of life, whether it's the teeth, the gums, the bite, or the smile.
Because I didn't feel anything at all. When I woke up there, I had everything done. I go in the restaurant to eat, and the waitress said this, "You got new teeth." So they noticed them too. If you want something done that is good and permanent there, this is the place to go.
KWTX presents the Greg May Honda Extra Point High School Football Show on News 10. Catch highlights from teams all across Central Texas every Friday night at 10. The Greg May Honda Extra Point High School Football Show on KWTX News 10 is sponsored by Greg May Honda and in part by Slovacek's, the Good Feet Store, and the Zimmerman Law Firm.
Central Texas Plumbing Solution is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. So when you need some help before the big game, call Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
Watch the Greg May Honda Extra Point High School Football Show every Friday night at 10. Live from the heart of Baylor Bear Country, the most comprehensive pre-game coverage. This is Game Day Live, powered by Sikkim 365 and KWTX News 10.
Air Force Academy football coach Troy Calhoun joins us. 365 Sports, Baylor, and Air Force coming up. The Falcons and the Bears on Saturday evening at McLean Stadium. Coach, thank you very much for your time. How much of what you learned as someone who was in the academy, and then, of course, under Fisher DeBerry and elsewhere, but how much did you learn as someone in that institution on what it means to play for Air Force Academy?
You know, David, an immense amount, right? I mean, you're immersed in it every single day while you attend the United States Air Force Academy, and have you're fully invested when it comes to the character part of it, the leadership growth, certainly academically, and yet at the same time want to try to play solid competitive football too.
When you look at the mission of someone, my father, Paul Catalina, who's one of our co-hosts, his father was U.S. Army. My dad was Naval Academy, but he spent most of his career as a lieutenant colonel, eventually retired in the Air Force. What is the mission, and how much does that carry over to the players who you coach and how they feel about it?
David, it's every single day, you know, unequivocally the purpose of the United States Air Force Academy, and that is to develop leaders of character that are prepared to go out and serve well on active duty, and beyond that, though, too, whether it's in their, you know, within their communities or certainly for our country, both, you know, while wearing the uniform and as a civilian.
What was the best advice besides everything that Fisher DeBerry gave to you or taught you?
You know, more than anything else, you got to go full throttle every single day. And you realize how fortunate you are to be alongside young men, young women that chose to come to the United States Air Force Academy. Certainly not, and it wasn't because it was easy. They came because there was something in their heart, in their soul, where they said, you know, I want to serve. I want to give to my country.
How much do you think the bowl game in Fort Worth plays at all into this week with Baylor? You spanked them really well. It was by the way, that was a freezing night, as you know, up at Amon Carter. Does anything at all come from that game either way?
A little bit, perhaps, David, from the standpoint that personnel-wise, probably more for Baylor's sake, because they had about 10, 12 guys that played double-digit snaps in that game where we only had one. Yet by and large, I mean, boy, especially with the kind of turnover there is in this day and age in college football, you look at it, neither one of their coordinators from the 22 season is currently there. The number of new guys that they have on their team, certainly a quarterback, you know, the acquisitions that have occurred via the portal route. So there's a lot there where there are no resemblances too.
You, of course, get some cold weather in Colorado Springs and places you've played up in the north and northwest and around the country, Air Force, Army, Navy games as well. Can you put that game as far as the weather with the wind chill in perspective in your career and how cold it was?
It was legendary.
Legendary.
You know, I think at some point, someone told me at one point it was like 15 degrees with a wind chill of -20.
Yeah.
I hope we never experience anything like that again in terms of the climate yet. Whether it's really warm, really cold, whatever it may be, we are grateful for the chance to play college football. And I think by and large, especially when you're a cadet at the United States Air Force Academy, you know, there's so many other demands that you have. You're taking 18 or 21 semester hours, 2 levels of calculus, aeronautical engineering, astronautical engineering. You have all your military and your squadron obligations. That in a lot of ways, you know, when you go out to practice, even if it's only for an hour and 20 minutes, that might be the best part of your day.
It might be. How did you juggle that as someone that was there and as a student and a part of serving your country?
Well, David, like my own children, my son and my daughter remind me frequently, it must have been a lot easier then, especially academically. And I mean, just more than anything else, I think the structure, the organization, your peers, you learn really to lean on each other. That's part of building the kind of teamwork and trust that's a necessity when you are on active duty. Again, the character part of it is huge.
You were on active duty. What was that like for you? And then you got back into coaching, came back to the Air Force Academy. I think as a GA, recruiting coordinator, then Ohio and on to elsewhere. What was that like being a part of active duty compared to when you're on campus as you're getting towards your graduation in Colorado Springs?
Well, it's real. It's sobering. I worked in a field where it was, if the president had to send in an EAM, that's an emergency action message, that means launch, whether it's the old ICBMs or, you know, the short range missiles within theater in Europe or from the subs. I mean, it just kept you very, very alert. You hope to know when. It's kind of like when you go over here and we visit NORAD. You hope that those items are never brought into play for real, but you realize it's a must just for the sake of deterrence.
Troy Calhoun, again, the head coach at Air Force with us. The Falcons and Bears play Baylor at McLean Stadium on Saturday evening. You are wearing those unbelievable uniforms. Baylor's wearing Black Ops uniforms. It's going to be an amazing scene. Your thoughts about just the game itself?
You know, David, I'll say this. I mean, just you have two fantastic institutions. The quality of school, the character part of it when you're talking about Baylor and the United States Air Force Academy, and even more so, the people, the young men and young women that go to each one of the institutions, just their makeup, the commitment when it comes to the character growth by both schools, and then obviously they are exceptional in sports. I mean, it is impressive. And how many different sports Baylor is so strong, not only within the Big 12, but nationally too.
What does it mean to coach them?
Well, it's much bigger than just coaching a sport. And you're trying to embed or help them further, you know, embed a set of values, that help them not only when they're a second lieutenant, when they're commissioned as an officer in the United States Air Force or the Space Force, because we do feed both branches of service. And I think where you find it most moving is you can recall interacting with that young person when they were 17, you know, in their senior year of high school or late in the junior year, and they really had no idea about the Air Force Academy, had no idea about the Air Force. And a lot of times, you know, a lot of circumstances, neither did the parents. And I don't say that in the demeaning way, because I completely identify with that. I had no idea about the Air Force Academy when I was a junior in high school, and yet just see that to see the transformation that occurs. They plod their way, because that's through the rigors of the Air Force Academy. They're 22. They graduate and they go serve, and lo and behold, there they are 4 or 5 years later, and they're flying F-35s, or they're a doctor in the Air Force, or they've gone to law school, or they're in special ops, and it's overwhelming to see the growth and the perspective and, you know, the will that they have to make our country a stronger place to live.
Coach Calhoun, thank you so much for what you represent, and also for giving us this time.
Absolutely, David. Thank you. Because, you know, the other part of it, you just brought to light the family sacrifices that are made by our service members. You know, when you're deployed, and whether it's mom or dad, and they're alone raising the kids, and for, you know, the challenges that they have, because it truly is a family commitment. So thank you to you and your family too.
Thank you very much. Troy Calhoun, Air Force, United States Air Force Academy Falcons head football coach, with us on 365 Sports.
Game Day Live, sponsored locally by Central Texas Plumbing Solutions and Bird Colgin Ford.
If you need a system repair or replacement, call the good folks at Clark Heating and Air Conditioning. They're family owned and operated since 1999 and offer best of the best installation, maintenance, and customer service. Being Waco's Tempstar Elite dealer, they have the best warranties and financing options. The Clark team is knowledgeable, well-trained, and ready to serve you. Call Clark Heating and Air Conditioning today and see why they're Waco's Tempstar Elite dealer.
Lessons in Adulting, brought to you by SPJST. Hello, happy family. Congratulations on your adulting progress. You're killing it. Are you ready for the next step in your adulting journey? Great. Let's talk retirement planning. Don't be scared. SPJST is here to help with traditional and Roth IRAs to help you grow your wealth, and annuities that can guarantee growth and provide income that will last your entire life. Now that's some solid adulting. SPJST, helping people adult since 1897.
Did you know BYOT Auto Parts is one of the largest buyers of used cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs in Central Texas? We'll buy your car today, running or not, and you'll get paid top dollar on the spot. Tired of pouring money into your car? We feel your pain. Got a vehicle that's just collecting dust? We'll pick it up for free and you still get paid. Looking for quality used auto parts? Look no further. At BYOT, bring your own tools and pull your own parts. Call or visit us online today.
BYOT Auto Parts. BYOT Auto Parts. Bring your own tools, pull your own parts.
Live from the heart of Baylor Bear Country, the most comprehensive pregame coverage. This is Game Day Live, powered by Sikkim 365 and KWTX News 10.
Air Force later on tonight, and it was a special Friday in Waco, Texas, at Baylor University. The 1974 Southwest Conference champion, miracle on the Brazos, with the win against Texas when Baylor was trailing at halftime. Grant Teaff, the head coach, there were rumblings that they might not even continue the football program. They were losing money. There was not enough people going to the games. And they went on to block a punt early in the second half and eventually beat Texas, first time in forever, and won the Southwest Conference champion. They had a luncheon, a reunion. They had a dinner, all of that last night. They'll be honored also today at McLean Stadium. Ricky Thompson was a part of that team. Wide receiver, eventually played with the Washington Redskins at the time, even with Joe Theismann and company in the NFL. He was a part of that 1974 championship team. Thoughts about what does this week mean to you?
Well, I tell you, you can really sum that up pretty quickly when you just know that 60-something guys will be back. Think about that, Smoke. 50 years ago, and you're going to have 60 guys that are back. I don't know how many even we had at the time, but pretty amazing that you can get that group of guys back together, stayed pretty close through all those years. And that just tells you a little bit, not only about what that team accomplished, but what the relationship was like between the guys that were on that football team, that you can have that kind of response some 50 years later.
Ricky, when you think about that team, that game, was that game obviously was the seminal moment of the season, but was there one before that gets lost in the shuffle that people maybe forget because it was so momentous to beat Texas?
Well, Paul, actually, I think there were several. I think maybe it starts with one nobody really ever talks about, and that's Oklahoma State at home. I think they were ranked 8 in one poll, and we beat those guys 31-14. Steve Beard had a fantastic game and just really handed it to those guys, and followed up that next week on the road at Florida State. Now, Florida State wasn't what they are today. Of course, they're 0-2 today.
I was going to say, what are they today?
Cheap shot, Rick. Cheap shot.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. Even now, Paul, they're a lot better than what they were then. I mean, they were in a losing streak that was pretty phenomenal in itself at the time. And we go down there and we're down 17-0 at halftime and looked terrible. Coach Teaff kicked in the locker room door because it was still locked. Burt Reynolds was being inducted at halftime, and Les Benson takes the band director off the ladder and sets him down because Coach Teaff says get the band off the field, and he took him to heart and did it. So we came back and won that one 21-17, and then the next week go on the road and come from behind in the fourth quarter and beat Arkansas 21-17. So there were some really big games before we ever got to Texas that we had to win that maybe at the time weren't considered that big because nobody really knew how good we might be.
You look at the defense and the way that they played. I mean, granted, not against Cam Rising for the entire second half, but they did stop some things. They did some things that they weren't doing. They have to play an offense that's going to run right at you all day long in Air Force and their triple option veer, whatever you want to call it. Do you think that bodes well for this week against the Falcons?
We played the run pretty well, and I think Air Force lost a lot of guys on offense. I don't think they lost 10 starters on the offensive side of the ball, so that has to affect you. I think they've struggled some offensively. I think maybe the run game is a strong part of our defensive football team right now. So I think probably this game fits us pretty well. The touchdown, particularly with the back coming out of the backfield at Utah, was a blown coverage. I mean, we saw that, and I think Coach Aranda spoke to that those couple of mistakes there were giving up big plays that should have never happened when you're in the right call. But we've seen what this Air Force offense can do, and we saw it in person a couple of years ago in a bowl game when it was way too cold to be playing football. But they really took it to us, put 30 points on the board. I don't think we ever slowed them down. I think it'll be a little different. I think Coach Aranda will adapt to that. I hate playing these teams like this, particularly in the regular season when you have to spend a week getting ready for an offense that you'll never see again. And I think from here out, you see some version of the spread. And I just think that's the concern to me, is it's an offense you prepare for 1 week and then you never see it again. And these military schools are so disciplined and run that offense so well. I think we've seen time and again them have big games against teams that they really shouldn't. So I know there's some concern there, but I do know too that this is a game that the Bears have to win. I don't think that's an option. I think it's early in the season. I know you don't need to say it, but I do think this is a must-win football game.
All right, that's Ricky Thompson, and I agree. You look at the schedule, you're not sure how many wins are out there. You need 6 to get to a bowl game. They're trying to get to number 2 on the year. And again, back in 1974, not many people thought that Baylor would compete for a conference title. Grant Teaff came in, of course, rebuilt the program, gave belief. They had their reunion, the luncheon, the dinner yesterday, and then the picture right there with Coach Teaff at that particular of those events. And he'll be at the stadium in his suite at McLean Stadium for what will be the game tonight against Air Force. When we come back, we'll look at the Big 12. We touched on KU and Kansas State, Arizona. Even though Arizona, K-State was a non-conference game, our thoughts about the Big 12 this weekend. Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak, and this is Game Day Live.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Score big savings at the Kickoff to Savings event at Richard Carr Buick, a first-year All-American and a 2024 Car and Driver Magazine Editor's Choice. The all-new Buick Envista starts at only $23,990. Or make the winning drive in a 2024 Buick Encore GX SUV and save $4,000 for non-GM car owners. Qualified buyers get 0.9% financing and no payments for 90 days. Score your deal at the Kickoff to Savings event going on now at Richard Carr Buick.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Make Camp Finfo the destination for your next visit to Waco. Whether you're catching a football game, exploring the silos, or just looking to get away, Camp Finfo Waco is conveniently located 6 miles from downtown and Baylor University. Voted a #1 best vacation rental in Waco for the last 2 years, this camping resort features cabins and RV sites and is brimming with premium amenities like on-site dining, sports courts, a swimming pool, and more. Start making unforgettable memories and book your stay at Camp Finfo Waco.
Get ready, Baylor fans. The ultimate game weekend experience awaits you at the Baylor Club. Kick off your weekend with our Friday Night Live pep rally. With live entertainment and special appearances from the Baylor Spirit Squad, it's the perfect way to start your game weekend with a roar. On Saturdays, don't miss our Knox Hall tailgate. Enjoy delicious food, ice-cold drinks, and great company as you gear up for the big game. And after the weekend's excitement, wrap it all up with our famous Bear brunches on Sundays. Don't wait. Make your game weekends legendary with the Baylor Club membership today.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Live from the heart of Baylor Bear Country, the most comprehensive pre-game coverage. This is Game Day Live, powered by Sikkim 365 and KWTX News 10.
With their coverage from Baylor and Air Force, as they will be all over that. And, of course, we're back on the air Monday with Paul and Triple Option 1 to 2 on 365 Sports, and then our show, all of us together in the afternoon at 3. We will have a post-game show following. As soon as the game goes to 0, we'll be on for anywhere between 30 minutes to 45 minutes or so with a quick post-game wrap here. Garrett will join me here from the studio. Here is the Big 12 schedule this week. There have been 3 games played already. 4 teams have already played. Arizona State winning in San Marcos on Thursday to go 3-0. You had the win by Kansas State at home against Arizona, non-conference game, but 2 top 20 teams, and then KU losing to what now is 3-0 UNLV. Which of those games, Paul, Craig, that that kind of catch your attention that have not been played that are on the schedule this week and today?
The backyard brawl is a huge one. West Virginia needs to make a statement that they are who they were last year or maybe even better, and that has not happened to this point of the season. That's a huge one. And UCF at TCU, this is the first opportunity for UCF in year 2 of what they think should be a better year in the Big 12 with KJ Jefferson at quarterback with that great running game to go make a statement on the road and do something. TCU, also an opportunity here. This is a really crazy, evenly matched game from my estimation, but I also thought Arizona and Kansas State was going to be close, so don't take my word for it.
Yeah, I agree with both of those. I think the backyard brawl is really important for Neil Brown after losing to Penn State, being 1-1. To be 1-2 wouldn't be a killer, but it would be bad vibes in Morgantown. They're on the road. Pitt got a big win last week over Cincinnati, so I think that could be a game that might be pretty competitive, and I think West Virginia's slight favorites on the road, so that's an interesting one. UCF and TCU, as Paul mentioned, is a big Big 12 game, and I think the Frogs win that one, but they're only slight favorites. The run game of UCF can make that really interesting, so I think that one, as far as getting the Big 12 conference slate kicked off, is a big one. And then I think the only other one I'd add, there's only so many games left, but Colorado State, just because of everything going on in Boulder right now with Dion and just the feeling around that program with the struggles and the bad mistakes that are carried over from last year that are still hurting them. That's only caused them, I think, to be somewhat more defiant with that inner circle. So if they were to go on the road and struggle against Colorado State or even lose that game, that would, really ramp up the negativity around that program. So they need to go have a strong showing. They're 7.5-point favorites, so I think Vegas expects them to go win without it being too much of a nail biter. But that's one that's interesting because of Dion, and that's obviously who Baylor plays next week as well. They'll travel to Boulder, so that's a little bit of a preview.
Against Colorado on the road. By the way, speaking of Colorado State, remember that was an unbelievable, one of the highest rated games last year, that game in Boulder. Their star receiver, Torrey Horton, is a game-time decision. Last year against Colorado, 16 catches, 133 yards, also threw a touchdown. He had 96 catches for 1,136 yards and 8 scores a year ago. He is a game-time decision. Taj Brooks apparently will be back. Texas Tech hosting North Texas in Lubbock, and they need a win. Taj Brooks has been out with an arm injury. Connor Wigman at A&M, they're on the road against Florida and Gainesville. Game-time decision. Redshirt freshman Marcel Reed, who played last week, will be available if, in fact, Wigman can't go.
I think Marcel Reed's skill set. Now, that doesn't mean that he's a better quarterback, but his skill set matches Colin Klein's offense more than Connor Wigman's does because he's very mobile. He's very athletic. If you saw the game, the bowl game he played off the bench against Oklahoma State, he also is a pretty confident player. He early on looked like a holy crap, how am I in this game moment? And then he kind of shook it off and played pretty well given the circumstances. So I'm curious to see how he would do against what's an undeterminedly good Florida team at this point. They got stroked by Miami. They beat Samford. Both those things should have happened. This is a more even matchup for them, but who knows?
Both teams need a win.
Yeah.
Both of them need a win, and the quarterback positions are right now in flux. Air Force put this out yesterday. I love this picture. Bear hunting, right? That's what their image was on their Twitter feed. Also, let's not forget that Baylor tonight will have their Mission Black Ops jerseys and uniforms and helmets that they will have. And I've seen a ton of great responses from even national writers and others to see the Mission Black Ops at McLean Stadium there. Let's see. And then on top of that, you have next week, and there's so many teams in the Big 12 that need a win. You always need a win. KU needed a win, didn't get one. Cincinnati needs a win. They're on the road against Miami of Ohio. We know Tech needs a win. Baylor needs a win. West Virginia needs a win. Colorado needs a win. A lot of teams in the Big 12 are in that. Are you going to end up going 6-6, 5-7, 4-8, or do you have a chance to get a win or two? this week a win to try to get yourself in a position where you can feel comfortable at the end of the year. Thanks to those of you who are in the chat room today. And again, some of you already have your black Baylor gear for when you attend the game at McLean Stadium. We're not done. A lot more to get to, including the great, the icon, Grant Teaff, on what this weekend's 50th celebration of the 1974 Southwest Conference Championship game means to him. This is Game Day Live.
It's Du Bois Furniture's summer farewell sale. Update your home with amazing savings. You'll find a great selection of stylish finds at unbeatable prices, plus clearance items marked up to 80% off or special financing. Now at Du Bois Furniture.
At Jeff Hunter Toyota, we don't just sell cars, we build relationships. For more than 30 years, we've proudly served the Waco community, sharing Toyota's commitment to quality and embodying Waco values every step of the way. From our friendly sales team to our expert service technicians, our priority is always you, our valued customer. Shop Jeff Hunter Toyota or go to jeffhuntertoyota.com. Jeff Hunter Toyota, Toyota quality, Waco values.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. My son Spencer was killed in a motorcycle accident. It broke my heart into a million pieces. This young driver was only 17 years old with no license, and his mother said that it was my son's fault. I was so devastated. My life changed forever. When I needed him the most, Daniel Starr was there for me.
The difference is stark.
It's Du Bois Furniture's summer farewell mattress sale. Say goodnight, sleep tight on a comfortable new mattress on sale now. Plus big savings on closeout mattresses, all with special financing. The summer farewell mattress sale at Du Bois Furniture.
Watch the Greg May Honda Extra Point High School Football Show every Friday night at 10. Live from the heart of Baylor Bear Country, the most comprehensive pregame coverage. This is Game Day Live, powered by Sikkim 365 and KWTX News 10.
Great to hear your voice. And I wanted to, the announcement that came out today by Baylor that they were going to honor the 74 team, the Miracle and the Brazos, the Southwest Conference title. And the very first thing I thought about, well, besides that's fantastic, 50 years ago, is also just to get a quick reaction from you on what that means to you and what you think it means to the team that did that.
Well, I thank you, Smoak. You're one of my favorites. I think you know that. And for you to write about this amazing story is very pleasing to me. So I'm here available. Answer any questions you've got.
It would
now,
be, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say it's an open door. You just ask it and I'll answer it.
So besides the win and besides what that year meant, is there anything else that stands out about that team besides 100 things that maybe has never been told or something you would like to share?
Well, I think one of the things that was sort of interesting is that it became, through the media, the Miracle on the Brazos. And we, as a coaching staff and a football team, and those that were involved with the team, never thought of it as a miracle, but that was the catchy thing for the media, and that's sort of how it went down. But it was planned, it was developed, it was executed by a coaching staff and a football team that took on the moniker that sort of went nationwide, is that they believed that they could beat Texas. And then they did it. But in order to do it, they had to have the proper plan and execute that plan. And so, it seems simple when you talk about it and everybody say, oh, well, it was a big miracle. Well, it was a planned miracle, if you want to put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it wasn't easy. That year started out, you played number 1 OU. That's the team when Switzer had those great teams at OU. We had a bunch of them. Missouri, you lost on the road at Missouri, so you had back-to-back. Then you beat Oklahoma State, won at Florida State in that memorable finish, won at Arkansas, so you gained some momentum, lost it to A&M, but that's just looking at the name. Eventually Texas and Texas Tech also ranked. Looking at that schedule in itself was amazing, or is amazing.
Yes, it was a road killer is what it was. And, we survived it and came out of it with a lot of confidence. And also that was, I think, very important as we went into the conference. And when we played University of Texas, that particular football team had no fear. They had been up against some of the best in the nation. They knew that they could compete and win against the top people. So it was, I never resented the miracle on the Brazos, because I understood that it was a miracle to most people, the high percentage of the people. So I never resented that, but it was a planned and an executed plan by a group of young men that believed that they could do it. And there's been a lot said and made about the concept of I believe, which I wrote a book about it. But that was the real key. To tell you the truth, because Texas had been dominant over the years. And here comes Baylor, who had been the bottom of everything, now comes up against the top team in the conference and have played like they believed they could win, and then they did win.
Why that team? Why did you mentioned it was planned, and we mentioned the schedule was just brutal. It kind of opens up your eyes. You never dodged people. You played anybody, anywhere, pretty much any time. Kind of during that time, the tough.
That was kind of the swagger we had. Line them up, we'll play them.
and you did.
And it was very good for our football team, because we had been against some really good football teams, and of course Texas was the best in our league. And so coming into that, our football team and our coaching staff had no fear at all, because we had competed against really good football teams. We had showed that we could win, and why not against the University of Texas? And so that's how we went into the game, with the mentality that, hey, this is just a game that's in our conference, and we're as good or better than they are, and we'll have to prove it on the football field. And we did.
24-7 at halftime. What changed?
Well, Smoak, that's, I think, the question that most football folks want to know all the time. What changed? Well, okay. Yeah. Well, Donnell just mentioned Neil Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Neil was stuttering quarterback that certainly wasn't a national known or ranked guy, became a quarterback, but he had one of the most important aspects of human relations. And that was, he was an humble executor. He quietly would go into a game or into a huddle. He exuded confidence, and then he performed it. And he was kind of an unlikely type kid to do that, in the sense that, he wasn't fast, he wasn't strong, he wasn't that big, and he was a winner. That's the big thing. He was a winner and suited that.
And he scored the first touchdown to kind of start this comeback in that third quarter.
Yes, he did. Yeah, and it was a game when you sit back and look at it, it was a classic game of supposed. We never thought of ourselves as underdogs, but the media did. And so here's the classic case of an underdog rising to the occasion and successfully executing a plan that had been worked on and actually worked when we put it into effect. And so it was one of those really amazing things to be a part of. And people still talk about it. People that were there, people that said they were there, talk about it all the time. So it was a great game and a very important game for our program and where we were trying to take Baylor at the time.
You beat a team with Earl Campbell, Roosevelt Leaks, Raymond Claiborne, and others who were on it. And because Texas was always loaded. And yet you were able to beat a team with guys who are now in the College Football Hall of Fame. And we know what Earl is. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Well, that's the truth. And of course, that's what, people, it was given the title of the Miracle on the Brazos. And the miracle part of it was that we were not supposed to win, and we did. So that's what the miracle was all about. But that didn't really aptly describe what took place because, they had the blue chip players and we didn't. And they had the history of success and we didn't. But on that particular day and that particular game, we were the best team on the field.
What did that win actually in the end mean to Baylor?
Well, I think the big thing that it meant to the Baylor and Baylor people is that we could play the best in our conference toe-to-toe and we could win. And they knew we did it the right way, and we brought in youngsters that maybe Texas did not take because somebody was better than they were. But through our development program, by the time those guys were ready to play, they honestly were as good as anybody. And it just surprised so many people, but it was no surprise to us, and it certainly wasn't a surprise to our team that they could line up against anybody and win.
All right, so they're going to honor the team, the memory, the team, the players, coaching staff, anyone attached to that team 50 years ago in November, but they're going to honor the team in September before or the weekend that they're playing the Air Force Academy, which to me is really, really cool that they're going to be in town for that game. What is that? Yeah. And you had a great relationship back in the day with Fisher DeBerry, among others that were a part of the U.S. Air Force football program. But
absolutely,
what does this mean to you? 50 years ago, and here you are, and they're going to honor the fact that it's the 50th anniversary.
Wow. I hadn't thought that much about it, but you're bringing back some lumps in my throat to see those youngsters develop from where they were to be able to win on that football field, do it with integrity, a great amount of pride, and effort. One of the things that we really based everything on was an individual, thus the team, giving total effort to everything they attempted to do. And we asked for that not only on the football field, but in the classroom and in their behavior out of the classroom. And so, it was a combination of things that made our team what they were. They became very close. They believed in each other. They believed in their coaches. And when we said sick 'em, they sicked 'em.
That's the legend, Grant Teaff. Baylor will honor the 1974 Southwest Conference Championship team in September before the weekend that they host the U.S. Air Force Academy coming to town in September at McLean Stadium.
Game Day Live, sponsored locally by Central Texas Plumbing Solutions and Bird Colgin Ford.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. Get out of the heat and come check out our Labor Day sales event in the largest showroom in Texas at Bird Colgin Ford. Right now, get 3.9% on the F-150. Save big with 2.9 on the Ford Explorer. Don't miss 1.9 on the Ford Escape. Come celebrate the final days of summer during the Labor Day sales event at Bird Colgin Ford. Experience better at BK Ford.
KWTX dynamic grid of Skycams in Central Texas shows you the weather right where you are. Live images around Central Texas are available 24 hours a day on air and online. And with the most experienced weather team in Central Texas, KWTX Skycam Network lets us give you real-time views of extreme weather in and around your community. Sponsored by Ray Broker Air Conditioning, serving all of Central Texas. Ray Broker is home of the free first service call.
Since 1953, Genco Federal Credit Union has been providing a wide variety of financial solutions for our members at every age and at every stage of life. Whether you're just starting out or close to retirement or anywhere in between, Genco wants to be your credit union. For lower loan rates, lower fees, and full mobile banking services, visit GencoFCU.org today.
My money, my future, my credit union, Genco.
Live from the heart of Baylor Bear Country, the most comprehensive pregame coverage. This is Game Day Live, powered by Sikkim 365 and KWTX News 10.
Some games that have already been played that affect who might play for the national championship when all that starts in December. The college football playoff expanded, Craig and Paul, to 12 teams. We'll hear from the executive director, Richard Clark, retired lieutenant general who played at the Air Force Academy and obviously had a distinguished military career. He is, to me, a breath of fresh air as a new voice for what they do with the College Football Playoff Committee.
Yeah, I don't think I've minced words in this program how I felt about Bill Hancock and what he kind of the things that he wrought by being such an unabashed lobbyist for things that the fans didn't want. We've talked to Rich Clark twice now, and I asked him, the first question I asked him, Big 12 Media Days, was there's a disconnect between what the fans want and what the powers that be are willing to give them, and it felt like that was not listened to for a long time. And he said, yes, he understands that, and he did that. As where you asked Bill Hancock that same question, and you guys did, and he was like, they'll watch what we tell them to watch. Was kind of the vibe.
Yeah, that was when you were in Hawaii getting married.
Yeah. And so I think that, breath of fresh air is good. New eyes on it, new project, new goal, as opposed to morphing something to kind of placate people. This does feel like he wants to build something new.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Paul has to say. I've enjoyed our couple of conversations so far with Lieutenant General Clark, and did not really enjoy our one conversation with Bill Hancock. I know he's got a lot of sway, but I don't know. I'm not like reaching for the top of the ladder in the college football business world anyway. So if I, tick anybody off by saying that, whatever. But he was somebody who rubbed me the wrong way. And so it's good to be able to enjoy the person at the top of the food chain, even though I know he's not pulling all the strings. But to have somebody likable that is running the playoff and doesn't seem to be, kind of what Paul referred to there is nice and refreshing, much like the format itself. And I'm excited about the 12 team. I don't know what to expect in terms of, what our enjoyment level will be by the end of it, but I'm very excited for it right now. And I'm definitely more excited that Richard Clark's the guy talking about it as opposed to Bill Hancock.
He was at that bowl game in Fort Worth, and as a great military man, because they can pretty much face whatever conditions, he did not go and watch it in a suite as a lieutenant general. He was on the sideline. We discussed that with him and many other things, but we also brought up the fact that he is in town this week. He's in Waco for tonight's game against the Air Force Academy, with the Air Force Academy against Baylor. So this Saturday, your alma mater, 38 years in the military, Lieutenant General, Air Force. You mentioned you were going to live in Colorado Springs, which is an unbelievably beautiful campus and place. Air Force and Baylor, Saturday evening. There's the huge flag from end zone to end zone, flyover. The Falcons are in town to play Baylor. How much fun is that going to be for you?
Oh, it's just awesome. I love watching football. It doesn't matter who's playing, but of course, I love to see my alma mater play. And when they're playing a great team like Baylor with such great history and tradition, it's special for us. It's an out-of-conference game. I mean, to be able to play a Big 12 team is a good opportunity for Air Force. And we're a young team, so it's going to be good for us to, step up and mix it up with the Big 12. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see how they fare, and it's going to be a great game.
We've brought up that bowl game in crazy, frigid conditions. This is the fourth time that Baylor and Air Force will meet. The first time was in 1977. Grant Teaff was the head coach with 38-7, Air Force winning that game. And then in 1961, they played Baylor with the win over Air Force. That game was in Waco. So they have had a few meetings before, a couple of 3 meetings overall, when Air Force Baylor had no chance in that game. Didn't want to be there. Sometimes it seemed like they weren't there, and Air Force was locked in winning that game 30-15, and it never even seemed to be that close. When we come back, our final thoughts on Baylor and Air Force and the weekend. Game Day Live on KWTX and 365 Sports.
It's time to score big savings at the Kickoff to Savings event on GMC trucks at Richard Carr GMC. Take the winning drive with the Texas Truck MVP. GMC Sierra is the best truck on the road. Save $9,000 on 2024 GMC Sierra SLT models in stock with approved trade-in. Plus, qualified buyers get 1.9% financing and no payments for 90 days. See dealer for details. Save big and score your deal at the Kickoff to Savings event at Richard Carr GMC.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you. Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Get ready, Baylor fans. The ultimate game weekend experience awaits you at the Baylor Club. Kick off your weekend with our Friday Night Live pep rally. With live entertainment and special appearances from the Baylor Spirit Squad, it's the perfect way to start your game weekend with a roar. On Saturdays, don't miss our Knox Hall tailgate. Enjoy delicious food, ice-cold drinks, and great company as you gear up for the big game. And after the weekend's excitement, wrap it all up with our famous Bear brunches on Sundays. Don't wait. Make your game weekends legendary with the Baylor Club membership today.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8000 8533. Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense in investing, member SIPC.
Live from the heart of Baylor Bear Country, the most comprehensive pregame coverage. This is Game Day Live, powered by Sikkim 365 and KWTX News 10.
Game Day, when we have discussed the game ad nauseum and among other games in the Big 12 and mentioned some of the scores from earlier in the week from Thursday and Friday night. By the way, our post-game show, as soon as that game strikes 0, Garrett Ross will be here in the studio with me, and offensive lineman Campbell Barrington will be our post-game guest, whatever that result might be. Paul, Craig, Air Force, and Baylor.
If Baylor can contain the offense, which is, 10 starters down, this should be a good opportunity for them to win a game. But if they can play disciplined, not over pursue, not let what's going to be a very fundamentally sound team, you heard it from Ricky earlier, they just run that offense so well and so efficiently that sometimes if you're only preparing it for one game, it can be, kind of a house of mirrors. But I think Baylor's better. This is the right time to catch Air Force, and I think they win the game. Easily is not really a word I would use with this team, but I do think that there's some comfort in this win.
I think if they struggle to win this game, then that's going to set off a lot of alarm bells, respectfully to Air Force. As we pointed out multiple times now, they are not at their best at the moment. So to have them at home and to have them in the Texas heat and to have them with the new uniforms and the miracle in the Brazos and all these different bells and whistles, if you can't add all that up, plus your inherent talent advantages and the money you spend on your program versus them and all of the built-in things that you have over them, really it all comes down to heart, I think, and just being smart mentally with the way you play the game in terms of turnovers and mistakes and things like that. And I feel like Baylor should go out and win comfortably today. If they don't and they struggle to get this win, then I think that's, like I said, going to set off a lot of alarm bells because I don't feel like this is a situation where you should be struggling all that much.
I agree 100%. By the way, Ricky did bring up how it's a difficult anytime you face the military academies and teams that run more of that triple option or slot option, whatever you want to call it. It also is a game that they could have prepared for a little bit more, knowing they were on the schedule during the summer, rather than it's going to be a bowl game and then all of a sudden you have a pretty quick turnaround, even though some weeks and practices prior to the bowl game. So Baylor and Air Force tonight, McLean Stadium, as Craig said, all the emotions of so many things, right? So many things that are going on with this game tonight, from the Southwest Conference Championship, from the Miracle on the Brazos that same year, all these players back, all of the tradition, the atmosphere, and some of us who made the prediction, I think everybody in the Sikkim365.com premium section picked Baylor to win the game. Some scores a little bit different than others. If Air Force does control the run game, their own run game, then this thing could get squeezed, the clock squeezed, and there won't be a lot of points put up on the board. And if anyone who played in that bowl game in Fort Worth in those conditions and basically almost all but a no-show as a team, they don't have anything extra this week for the handful of players who played in that game in Fort Worth, then I don't know what to tell you. But Craig is right. Paul, you're right. It's a time to go out, win a game you're supposed to win, and then who knows next week when you play Colorado. For Garrett Ross, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. This has been Game Day Live.
Central Texas Plumbing Solution is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. So when you need some help before the big game, call Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
Who's going head-to-head this week in the Zimmerman Marquee matchup? You decide. Go to KWTX.com and cast your vote today. Sponsored by the Zimmerman Law Firm. If you've been injured, call 1-800-INJURIES.
Well, football is back, and that means it's time to get your team gear ready. But wait, you need to check the forecast before you head out to the big game because you never know what the weather's going to be like in Central Texas. That's why you need to check out my Slovacic's tailgate forecast each Friday night throughout the season here on News 10.
At KWTX.com, you choose your news. It's the news you want. The most chosen news stories that are the most read, most interesting stories, all in one location. The most popular list from KWTX.com. KWTX News 10. Sponsored by Members Choice Credit Union.
We're open for home buying, credit building, smart saving, car financing, and a whole lot more. When life happens, we can help. ChoiceFCU.com.
Central Texas Plumbing Solution is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly. Getting it done right the first time. So when you need some help before the big game, call Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
Watch the Greg May Honda Extra Point High School Football Show every Friday night at 10.